My understanding is that all conifers rely on gravity and wind to disperse their seeds, so it would have to be another group of plants that would take advantage of this idea. And they would do so with the invention of the next great idea in plant evolution, the flower. And with these new flowering plants, we have our first angiosperms. Now, evidence suggests it wasn't a tree or a conifer that grew the first flowers. It was probably a grass or a wetland plant. So when those new flowering plants or angiosperms first started forming trees with wood, they would do it in a slightly different way that was rather ingenious. Rather than all the vertical cells of the wood doing both jobs of adding structure to the tree and transporting sap, these hardwoods create more specialized cells, fiber cells, which provide support, and vessel cells, or pores, which transport sap. With woods like our oak here, they actually end up growing these big distinctive bands of pores at the beginning of the year. So with our oak, for instance, it loses its leaves at the beginning of winter, and then at the beginning of spring it needs to grow new leaves again. And so it creates these big vessels so it can transport as much sap up to the leaves as possible to create new leaves. And then out the rest of the year, it really doesn't create any pores at all, and so you have just this dense, fibrous area. You can also see it if you look really closely at the end of the piece of wood. You have these areas where there are big open cells, and then these denser, darker areas where it's mostly fibers without any vessels or pores at all. When woods form like this, with these distinctive bands of pores, and then the rest of the year no pores at all, we call that ring porous. On some other hardwoods, you might find that there's some big pores at the beginning of the year, and then it slowly tapers out as the season goes on. We call this semi-ring porous. And on some others, there might be no difference in the variation between the vessels and fibers throughout the whole year. We call these non-ring porous. This is often in correspondence with the weather of the area, whether there are strong wet or dry seasons, and whether the tree loses its leaves or not.